My greetings. Well met. Greetings, traveler. Greetings, friend.
The pleasure is mine.
Hello and welcome to episode 286 of Concede, a Hearthstone podcast dedicated to making the competitive side of the game more accessible to you. It is Thursday, April 8th in the evening. From Gadgetan, New York, it's me, Ridiculous Hat. From Kerosene, California, we've got Botticus.
Yo.
From Undercity, Pennsylvania, back where she's from, I guess. I don't know. You're a different place every week. We've got Edelweiss.
Hello.
And Concede supported directly by you, the listener. If you'd like to find out how you can support us, receive rewards in return, head to patreon.com/Concede or subscribe in the Twitch chat. Like Grumpy Face just did. Thank you, Grumpy Face. You can also support us by leaving an iTunes review, totally free and really helps other people find the show. Big thanks to our 5 new patrons this week: Grumpy Face, Binoculars, Malta, Slava, and Marcus. Thank you all so much. That's wonderful. All right. And also, thank you so much to everyone who left your reviews. We will read those in the bonus episode, which we're going to record on Tuesday, and then didn't, because a bunch of stuff happened. It was mostly my fault.
Well, we've been juggling sicknesses, I guess.
Yeah. I was sick for 2 weeks, and then Botticus got sick so he wouldn't get more sick, and also I was just tired. That's kind of how that goes. Botticus, why don't you tell us what's going on first? How's it going, buddy?
It's going okay. So, got vaccinated, the Johnson & Johnson 1 vaccination thing on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, I was sick. I wasn't quite the level of sick where it's like, when is this ever going to end type sick. It was more like the, I don't want to think or do anything other than lie here in bed and watch YouTube videos kind of sick. So like right on that level. But that's where I was at pretty much all day yesterday, up until about 9 p.m. And then it all started to wash away. So ended up going to work today. But yeah, we're vaccinated, so that's good. Even though I'm still just going to do my same thing where I come home every day and play video games. And yeah, so been playing a fair bit of Hearthstone. You know, we know that there are going to be nerfs next week, which I kind of understand on some level why they don't announce nerfs when they know what's going to happen, because it kind of feels like we're in a weird spot where we know nerfs are going to happen, so playing standard feels a little weird because, you know, it's kind of imbalanced. So, and the deck that I enjoy, or the deck that I would really enjoy playing, isn't the imbalanced one, so I don't feel the need to play it. So yeah, I mean, I did a lot of climbing with Spell Mage because it was good, but didn't have an amazing time playing it. And then Miracle Priest is fun, but I don't think I'm very good at it because I keep losing a lot. And maybe it's because the other decks are imbalanced, but I also just don't think I play it very well. So playing a bit of that. I also played a bit of Weapon Rogue. I don't know what Poison Rogue, whatever you want to call it.
Do you play Swine Tusk Shank, or do you play Greyheart Sage?
Yes.
Shank.
Swine Tusk.
Yeah, so like Weapon Rogue is a complicated thing because there are a lot of rogues with weapons, but I think if you're playing Greyheart Sage, it's like stealth aggro, and if you're playing Swine Tusk Shank, then you're playing Poison Rogue, which is a dumb name, but I think that's the best way to call it.
Yeah.
It's Four Swords Rogue, right?
Yeah. Okay.
Right.
Yes, that one.
So that's what I was playing because it kills mages. And even though it doesn't feel like it has a great matchup against paladins, it was killing mages very efficiently. So I played a good amount of that and killed a lot of mages. And other than that, played a little bit of paladin just to know what that deck felt like before it gets nerfed. Because I had a couple of quests. Yeah,
it's good, by the way. It's a good deck.
Yeah, it was good. It didn't feel like I had to jump through any hoops. Though I do think I think you can play it way better and have a good win rate with it. I think it is surprisingly a very I think people don't think that it's a very complicated deck, but I think that it's very difficult to play 100% optimally. There's a lot of moving parts going on with it. So I think you can play it suboptimally and still win a lot, but it's obviously just, I think it's got a pretty high skill cap, or at least from the few games that I played with it, it felt like that.
High floor, high ceiling, right? Like it's you can barely pay attention to it and do well, and also you can put a lot of energy into it and do really well. It's a very powerful deck that also, if you just play the green cards on curve for the first 5 turns, you win a bunch of games, and then if you think about it really hard, you win a bunch more games.
Yeah, I would say it's also hard to tell. Like both mage and paladin right now, their strength is a place where it's like they have the draws that it just nothing matters, right? Sword on 2, lunacy on 2, you're more often than not winning those games, and then the better you are, the more you'll win the games where you don't have that.
Yeah, and it's
You know what's better than Lunacy on 2?
what's that?
Lunacy on 2, Skull on 3. I did that multiple times. It was disgusting.
Had that done to me a couple of times. It's unpleasant.
See, Bot, you talked about that. You know that when they announce nerfs, you know that something is unbalanced. I actually figured that out pretty quickly when I got into Grand Slam done for. I was like, something seems off about this. I don't usually get into Grand Slam done for, or really at all. That's kind of a tell. But I think the reason that we haven't gotten the patch notes as to what's getting changed is because people like to play the thing that they're going to get taken away. So I don't know if it's possible for Spellmage to get more popular in ladder because, boy, there's a lot of it. But even though it's an open secret that Deck of Lunacy is getting obliterated, if they put the patch notes out today, it would be all we saw until Tuesday. It would make things pretty unbearable, I think.
Still gonna be all we see until Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Can one of you explain to me how this works? I had a mage opponent yesterday go hero power face on turn 2, far left Deck of Lunacy on 3.
Did you have a watch post in play?
No?
Okay. They made a mistake.
Okay.
Yeah,
I was very confused. And then what's the 10 damage spell in mage?
Mask of Cthulhu.
Oh, they played 4 of those against me and I died. So
That'll happen.
that's
their
a lot.
plan worked, I guess you could say.
I know part of that plan involves waiting a turn to play the best card in your deck. So I don't know. I don't know why you would not do that. Maybe like okay, if I'm trying to logic through why they did the wrong thing, they were probably waiting for a card draw spell, right? They were probably waiting for a Springwater or Arcane Intellect. They shouldn't have done that.
Yeah,
but that's probably what they did.
that's what I'm thinking too. But I was just so confused why that happened.
Yeah, they should have enough things that will turn into card draw spells that you don't need to do that.
I could understand if they even. I don't, because I might have been playing Paladin that game, so I could see if they played the cost reducer on 2 and to guarantee a bunch of Librams to heal themselves, but they just hero powered me in the face on turn 2, and I was very confused.
They wanted to send a message. They wanted to make it very clear. They didn't beat you because of Lunacy on 2.
Oh, maybe because I was playing Paladin, maybe I had a secret in play. Oh, now I'm remembering.
And so what
they were playing around. Oh my god!
Did they play a 1-mana spell
needed...
the next turn? They play one.
I don't remember. I was so baffled that they hero powered me on turn 2.
If they played a 1-mana spell, then sure. Like if you had a secret up and they played a 1-mana spell, then absolutely. But if they just waited a turn and then made the same play anyways, it's not like if you take a turn off, the secret disappears. It stays in play.
Right.
So I'm assuming that they played that a 1-mana spell or they misplayed. One of those two.
I mean, as you can tell, I was playing 100% fully focused Hearthstone last night, and definitely was paying attention to everything that happened in all of my games. So, yeah, I don't know. But that's pretty much been my experience. Played a bit of BGs too, but I keep feeling I must be missing something because I feel like I keep missing on all of my end game scaling units and never develop a comp that I can win with or even get top 4 anymore. So I don't know what's going on in Battlegrounds, and I kind of just hope that they come out with a new format so that I don't have to learn what I'm doing wrong in this format.
Yeah, I haven't really touched BGs since the new cards. In terms of my life and ladder, I do a kind of weird thing when we have metas like this, which is I kind of get into it because there's a clear enemy. And
So you're saying you become a hipster?
No. Because experimentation becomes like focused, right? You can actually hit the matchup that you're trying to face or to beat because there's a very clear target. It's like, okay, we're trying to beat mage paladin, and so just gonna only worry about mage paladin, and if we lose to anything else, who cares? That wasn't our target. It's fine.
I mean,
And how did that go for
Yeah.
you?
that is a good question.
It went okay. I did some collecting of lists from other people that were trying this. Had some success with shaman, and it was a very mid-range shaman. It was like elementals, and then it has what I think is probably my favorite finisher ever. You tail into Isera, and Isera gives you a guaranteed nightmare. So you kill people with Alec or Nightmare.
Do you diligent note taker?
No, that's not in the deck because you need a density of elementals. But that would be amusing.
That's still pretty sweet.
Wait, how much damage does Alec here do with the Nightmare? It's only
14. I mean, the deck also has Doom Hammer
Okay.
and
Chip damage, right? You probably dunk tank
and-
people.
fire. Yeah, it's got double dunk tank, and Fire Elemental does 4 now.
It's like a Glavebound
so
adept.
Edelweiss sets up the Force Roar. Literally just
do.
sets up the Force Roar.
Yep.
I mean, I appreciate you're doing the Lord's work. For what it's worth, I have also been I'm not super enjoying this meta, but like I've gone in waves of the first few days. I was like, all right, this is interesting. Even though I know there are balance problems, they'll figure it out. Then a few days later, it's like, all right, things are really bad. And I got Lunacy done too a bunch that day, and I was like, the 5 Grand Slams in 3 games, my ability to find the fun here is dramatically curtailed. But then over the past couple days, I don't know if it's just the MMR bracket that I'm in or whatever, I'm at the level where like when good players try crappy decks out of boredom, they fall to where I am. And so I'm really enjoying that bracket. I'm playing against a lot of druids and demon hunters and still a bunch of mages. So I'm just
That's
getting
where
them.
I usually am at.
Yeah. So I'm just getting them. I took the Vicious Syndicate Face Hunter list, which is exactly the hunter list I talked about that I wanted in right before the set came out. I want all of the efficient hunter cards that deal damage and cost 5 or less, and I want to play them at the same time. So a lot of games where it's like Coin Imprisoned Felmaw, still good against mages, very good against mages. Like they font and then they have to like play out an Apexis Smuggler they randomly generate just so they can soak a Felmaw hit 50% of the time, which is more like 20% of the time. We all know Felmaw goes face. And boy, Kolkar Pack Runner is a card. Oh, yeah, it's so good.
So good.
It's Gibberling with Rush. It's just Gibberling with Rush. And so, really, really enjoying that card. I've learned that Value 2 drops some of my favorite cards ever. Like, I thought about it, I'm like, wow, I really like Diligent Note Taker from last year. And I really like Dark Peddler if we're going back a ways. And just, like, these kind of cards are where I'm at.
Wand
Oh,
Maker.
man, you know what card this
Wand
plays,
Maker.
Edelweiss? Do you remember the card we were scared of, Edelweiss?
Knife Fender.
The
Which
Knife
one?
Fender.
It does play double
It
Knife
does,
Fender.
Yeah.
I did
Yeah.
also.
I only saw one Knife Fender, at least in the one
Yeah.
I pulled off. Yes.
And the Vicious Syndicate only has one.
But so I also got Legend in a hilarious way last night, where my opponent got to learn that if they're a priest and I'm a hunter, and I have a trampling rhino and they have a hysteria, that they shouldn't do that thing on this thing. Because I had a 1/1 in play, and they had a Sethic and a Bloodweaver, and it was a 6/4 trampling rhino. So they took 9,
amazing.
gave me a wow, and conceded. and that was my Legend Final Boss at 11x MMR. So don't think for a second that if you make misplays, you don't deserve to be at high MMR, because my opponent got to discover that interaction the hard way. Yeah, I had lethal in hand anyways, but it was very amusing. I was amused. The replays in the Concede Discord, definitely go check it out. And if you're against Trampling Rhino and you have a Hysteria, just keep that one in the tank. Just hold that back. You're not going to want to use that in that particular situation. And it hit my own 1-1, but the Trampling Rhino says enemy hero. So it hit my own 1-1 and domed for 5.
I was going to wait until the explanations to talk about this, but...
a piercing shot.
Yeah, piercing shot. People, I think, undervalued the ability to hit your own stuff with it to damage the enemy face, because it seemed like, oh, this is nowhere close to kill command. But let me tell you, if you have a 1-mana beast, that's about the same going, 1-1 piercing shot it for 5 damage to the enemy face as like playing a beast and kill commanding the enemy hero.
Wound, prey, face, kill command, or piercing shot your own 1-1 is totally like any beast kill command. It's functionally identical. And wound, prey deals 1 damage too. That's 6 to the dome. It's a fireball. Yeah, just get them. So, had a lot of fun with that. Good win rate, good against mages, unwinnable against paladins, whatever. That's just a thing that's going to happen this meta. I also had a lot of fun today with, there are a couple rogue decks going around, both of which play Tenwu. There's Casey...
Is that the Alex OTK?
So, Casey has an Alex list where it curves up to... It's a Miracle Rogue that curves up to 5 with all the normal rogue greatest hits, and then has Alex, and like sometimes you just play Alex, other times you shadow step it. And sometimes you shadow step it, and then play it, and then Tenwu it, and then hit him. And that's a lot of damage. It's just, Alex is the world's biggest pen flinger. It's a huge pen flinger. And so you just dome them for 8 a bunch. But there's another list, a Scabs Cutter Butter list that I just found today with Oil Rig Ambushers. And I ended up doming someone. Yeah, I ended up doming someone for like 16 with that. Just because you get to play, besides Tenwu, it also plays, it's got Shadow Steps and all that. Brain Freeze is a really good card now, and you Cutter Butter a lot, and Octobot a lot, and you end up being able to play like 4 damage Ambusher.
So much more stuff viable.
Yeah. So, both I'll put both those in the show notes.
Did you see the Alex? I think somebody posted an Alex OTK.
Oh, the full OTK.
Somewhere.
There is the Potion of Illusion, crazy wonky OTK.
Oh no, it does. It's no Potion of Illusion. So it's Octobot. You Octobot Alex and Tenwu -2. So both Octobots have to hit both Tenwu and Alex. So you Alex them for 7, and then you play 10. You play Tenwu and bounce the Alex back
for 8, not for 7, for 8.
And no. Alex twice. Reduce Alex twice. It
He's
costs
saying
8.
you need,
to 7 mana,
Octobot to hit both of them.
Oh, yeah, 7 mana.
Yes. So it costs 7. So then, so you Alex face, Tenwu it back costs 1, Alex face again, and then Shadow Step Tenwu twice. That's 2 more for 10 mana total. And, it's 8 times 4, 32.
Seems good. So yeah, this environment seems close to greatness, with the exception of 2 really, really oppressive classes. But there's something that's almost good enough in every class, and if you want to beat either mage or... Okay, if you want to beat mage, you can do that. If you want to beat paladin, you can try. Good luck. Because paladin's a much better deck. And you can beat mage but not beat lunacy, that's a possibility. But my experience has been that mage is not too hard to target, and sometimes they'll scam you because that happens. But beating paladin is very difficult to consistently do, just because the deck is kind of good at everything, and also sometimes you have the answer and they Omayog you twice in the first 5 turns, and then you just don't have the answer anymore.
Yeah, it definitely feels like it's a weird split of some of the early out of control metas we've had. The deck that is 30% of the meta is different from the deck that is insanely like most winning.
Yeah.
And in some, that's like kind of good. I think it's better than just seeing the winningest deck as the highest win rate deck, but at the same time, getting Lunacy is a pretty miserable experience. I think I prefer this over like the Galakron Shaman meta, for example.
I think people just want free wins, and Mage feels like a deck that's full of more free wins than
For sure.
Paladin.
Well, and people like the crazy game experience as well. But yes, I think that's kind of the most thing is it feels most powerful because you're playing all these high cost cards for really cheap. And so yeah, they'll take the free wins that way. But
Well, Spell Mage has been disproportionately popular since they printed it, because it was really bad last year, and people kept playing it a ton. Reminds me a lot of Quest Shaman, which was kind of good for about one meta, but saw a ton of play until it rotated. Well, it was dominant in Doom in the Tombs, but that's like, that didn't count, that never happened. But outside of Doom in the Tombs, Quest Shaman was like a tier 2 deck that was a ladder darling for months.
Hey, look, I don't know what you're talking about. Quest Shaman was the best shaman.
It was fun, but it was tier 2 for a while, and Spell Mage was worse than that, but people want it to be good, and now that it's good, people are enjoying it. And Refreshing Springwater is a real card. I don't think they're going to nerf it, but it's very, very powerful, and I'm okay with Spell Mage being a good deck, and I think it will be a real deck after nerfs without Deck of Lunacy that is healthy and good for the game. But we're not there yet. And right now, Deck of Lunacy, not any of those things. It's a tavern brawl, and I understand that, like, people that are coming back, some people really enjoy the gameplay pattern, and, like, enjoy your 2 weeks with it. Savitz is back and is playing it, and, like, it's fun to see people, old school players. Savitz and Dog are both top 100 in Standard Ladder, like, crazy. But this is not going to stay in the game, so make peace with that now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Should we do news? Because we just basically did news, so we should go to the news section, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, let me put this water away. Ugh. Let's go.
Gadgets and Gazette always gets the scoop.
All right, so as Hat said, we covered a lot of what's in the news section, but probably the big headline for this week is definitely that nerfs are coming. They have been announced that they are happening. We don't quite know what they are, despite some people saying that there might have been leaks, but we don't support people leaking information. So we're going to not look that information up yet, even though I'm sure some of us will probably look as soon as the show's over. So we don't currently know what the nerfs are going to be, so we'll have to make some guesses. But Iksar did make a tweet saying balance changes to go out early next week with 20.0.2. We'll be targeting some cards in Mage, Paladin, Rogue, and Neutral, hoping to create some more space for experimentation in the early Barrens meta and have some more diverse field of classes. 6 changes in total, details coming soon.
Well, all right.
What's the wish list?
Okay. So
I'm so glad that they put neutral in here because I thought I was going to lose our bet, and I don't know if there's another neutral. Well, I guess watch posts. Maybe.
I really hope that you don't lose the bet, but
just to clarify,
really hope.
We're all hoping for Penflinger to get nerfed. If you weren't listening to last episode, we made a bet where, like, bet on a card that you think is a lock, and I bet Jandis and Bot bet Penflinger. What'd you bet, Edelweiss? Sword? Did you bet Sword?
Sword.
Yeah. So we'll see. Just to clarify as to why nerfs are needed this quickly. Well, first of all, the last time they took more than a month to nerf when a set came out was Rise of Shadows. That was 2 years ago. So this is just a thing that happens now. Where within the first 4 weeks, if not sooner, of every expansion, there will be a nerf. So it's not premature to talk about it early on. Even though it's premature to whine about cards a day and a half into the expansion, there's some legitimacy to bringing up nerfs early on. So if you were also wondering why they needed to make this announcement so quickly, if you look on the screen here, I have put up the class representation rates as to how popular classes are right now. How's it look to you two? Does that look healthy?
I mean, I like the color blue. The color blue is pretty appealing to me, so the fact that there's a lot of it makes this graph look very interesting. Although green, which is a much more favored color of mine, is not very highly represented on the chart, so I don't like this chart.
Yeah, it is true that you normally like Demon Hunter to be all the way at the top. But yeah, the meta is badly balanced. Audio listeners, at Diamond 1 to Diamond 4 from the latest Vicious Syndicate report, Mage is 32.6% of the meta, and Paladin is 21.7% of the meta. HS Replay put out a tweet saying that since the launch of the expansion, 50% of all of their recorded games for the entire expansion have been Mage or Paladin. Out of all the games for the entire expansion, 2 classes make up half of them.
That checks out.
Yeah. Seems a little low in the mage end, but whatever. The meta is not what anyone wanted it to be. It really is not what anyone wanted it to be. And by the way, as far as win rate goes, just to be clear, Secret Libram Paladin per Vicious Syndicate at Diamond 1 to 4 has a roughly 57% win rate globally, which is incredibly broken. That is between like Call to Arms, Even Paladin, and Day 1 Demon Hunter. Spell Mage is tier 1, but it's close to a 53% global win rate. Still really, really good, but nowhere near as impressive as Secret Libram Paladin, which is by far the best deck, and regular Secret Paladin is around 56%, which is also really, really good. And if you look at
people targeting Mage, because you can't target the Paladin.
Yes. And if you look in the front page of HS Replay, it's even more simple. The number 1 class, the front page, Paladin, 57.5% global win rate. The number 2 class, Mage, 51.4% global win rate. Every other class below 50%. All of them. So, meta is not healthy. It's not. There still is fun to be found, but they need to do something, and they're going to do something, and I'm glad they said something. So, Nerf wishlist. We talked about Sword, talked about Janus, talked about Flamer. Go ahead.
I mean, before we get into that, it's probably just me, but this doesn't feel as bad as Galakron Shaman or Day 1 Demon Hunter. I mean, obviously the stats aren't as bad as Day 1 Demon Hunter, but am I alone in this? This meta doesn't feel nearly as bad.
They're 2 different decks.
It depends on how many Lunacies on 2 I see that day, if I'm being really honest. Like, there are flashes of hope every time that I play, and I run into a non-Paladin or Mage deck, or I'm playing a non-Paladin or Mage deck, and I beat a Paladin or Mage. And I've been doing a bunch of that lately because I want to play Rogue, and I want to play Hunter, and I want to play Demon Hunter. By the way, Illidari Inquisitor card is bonkers, loco bananas, and you're going to hear and see a lot about that card soon if you haven't already taken 8 to the face and died. It's really, really good. But there are a lot of cards out there and a lot of decks out there that are almost good enough. And when I play one of those, this meta is going to be great when they fix it. I feel pretty confident there is a lot of opportunity here to explore. It's been stunted. But it's still rotation time, right? Like, Hearthstone's still a fun game, and then trying new things is cool. But then sometimes you just don't get to play, and that's the crappy part of it. Being close at times makes me feel almost worse. But I don't know. Like, Day 1 Demon Hunter was the perfect storm of everyone wanted to try the new thing, and the new thing was also incredibly broken, so it was just, that was all you could really do. There was no flash of hope there.
Yeah, but at the same time, I would fault no one for just, putting the game away until nerfs.
Yeah.
Because I'm playing because I want to create content. In my free time, more inclined to play another game. What?
I was drinking water when Bodicus to say stuff. I like when he says stuff.
Anyway, that's, I guess maybe I'm alone on that one, or...
Well, not alone.
Maybe...
Like, I would rather this than Ashes, but also, if we're choosing favorite flawed metas, then sure, but I'd rather it not be flawed. So it's,
right.
I can justify it. I agree with you that the urge to queue is still there. It's very present. It's very strong. I want to play Hearthstone because I love rotation time. And then when I queue, if I'm against Paladin with Sword on 2 or Deck of Lunacy on 2, I don't feel like I got to experience rotation. I feel like I queued into Tavern Brawl by mistake, and I don't want to do that, so I close the client. But when I get to play against other decks, or when I smash a stupid mage in their stupid face, then, hey, I'm having a good time. It's so close to the experience that I want, but being close makes it more painful when I don't get it. So
Yeah.
it could be worse. I'm glad they're nerfing.
I think it, in some ways, feels kind of bad that we have this kind of thing at such a momentous moment.
Yeah.
It feels like this should have been the moment of triumph, getting the core set and Barrens, and instead we have 50% of just these two decks. And yeah, I think we're very close, and there's so many cool things to try, and I really love a lot of the core cards, and they're seeing interesting play, but yeah, we just don't really. It feels like we're playing through early access, and like I would like to get out of early access, Barrens.
Yeah,
I guess
I don't
that's
like
just
the.
what I'm worried about so much is that I feel like so many of these last releases have been this. And this one felt different for me, but I don't know if I'm trying to make it feel different because I don't want to have this feeling every time an expansion comes out of, oh, we're going to play for the first day and it's going to be fun. And then day two, everybody's going to realize what the most broken stuff is. And then we have to wait for them to nerf it before we get to have a somewhat enjoyable thing. But a lot of the luster for the new set has been gone by the time the second week rolls around, and maybe people have found other stuff, or there's just like a lot of negative publicity, so even coming back to it, even though we know that it's better, doesn't feel as good as if it would have just been good right when the expansion launched. I don't know,
Well,
it's been a consistent thing, right?
Kind
the last
of.
couple expansions have been
Think about the last 4 expansions. Okay, so Ashes and Barrens were both huge rotation changes. In Ashes, they made a new class, and in Barrens, they got rid of Classic. I don't expect them to be able to effectively chart the trajectory of those changes because they are both so enormous. Now, should they have caught some things? 5 Mana Skull should never have existed. I like the team. I think they do good work. That was a mistake that I am not prepared to forgive because they shouldn't have made Skull at 5 mana. Just look at that card. It's not too hard to figure out. This expansion, I don't feel like there are really an egregious mistake quite the same way as you look at 5 Mana Skull and it takes you 10 seconds to figure out that card should just... We all know it. We were there. Whatever. We saw it. I don't feel that way about any cards now, but I also don't blame the team for failing to chart the trajectory here. I also don't blame anyone for being frustrated that it's another rotation where they gotta wait a minute before they can actually play. If you look at Scholomance release month was awesome, and there were things that felt broken, and then the meta adjusted. Remember how Druid was the most broken thing in the world? Then the next day was Pure Paladin. Then the next day was Mozaki Mage. Then later that day it was not Mozaki Mage anymore. And then Turtle Mage on Sunday was legitimately broken, but it was a crazy thing. Skolo self-balanced and still got a nerf 2 weeks in because Lucy on 2 was too good. And Kael'thas, even at 7, was 30 mana turns. It was too much. Darkmoon Faire, it was boring on launch. It wasn't really broken, just the good decks got better. But it wasn't the sort of thing where you play it and you say, this immediately needs to be balanced. It was just like, it was mostly the decks from Scholomance, because Scholomance was so powerful. And Soul Demon Hunter and Aggro Demon Hunter both got better, and it took us a minute to figure that out, but nothing crazy broken came out of the theory crafting streams. If we look at Skolo and Darkmoon Faire, there wasn't really anything in those sets that compares to the feeling of right now. It's rotations where they change a lot of stuff. And so far we've had 2 in a row that have been not great. And then Rise of Shadows was fine, I guess. They got rid of Genenbaku, which was a net positive, but still that was a little flawed on rotation. This is going to happen anytime they make big changes, and they make big changes at the same point every year, which is also when they make other big changes. So maybe they should introduce the new class in the second set next time, if they do that. Like, maybe that's a better idea, and not pair it with a rotation. Maybe that's an idea. I don't know.
Yeah, or stagger things in such a fashion that there's some adjustment. I don't know. Like if the core set had come out earlier, and then people got to playing with that, and then Barrens, I don't know, just to get a sense of certain cards' power level. Although honestly, core set, it doesn't feel like we're having any problems with core set.
Shadow Step still being around is a problem. Hi, Steve.
Okay.
Hi, Steve.
That's a bit of a problem. That's a bit of a problem.
Hey,
but
you be quiet, please. I like Shadow Step.
I know you do, but it's also questionable design in 2021.
I mean,
particularly with J-Bar and Kazakus.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
and field contact.
I think the most notable thing about the core set is the fact that it took away so many bad spells, which is
Yeah.
why Deck of
Right.
Lunacy all of a sudden got super powerful.
Solarian is also ridiculous. We just haven't seen as much of that.
And we noticed this as well. Amazing Reno got so much better when Ashes came out because they got rid of Year of the Raven sets, which were full of some real interesting cards that most of the low rolls went away, and we're experiencing that to the nth degree this time. And also, Craft has made a very good point in chat that I want to bring up. The technical issues, which are rampant in 20.0, make the balance issues feel worse because the game truly does feel unfinished. And I know they're working really hard on it, and I know the reason. I'm not 100% sure in this, but I'm 99% sure that the reason that the balance patches have not come out already is because they're shipping with a client patch that's going to fix a ton of bugs, and they gotta wait. That is my guess. I don't think it's because of Grandmasters. I think that if they could get the patch out this week, they would have just told the GMs before deck submission and said, hey, we're changing these cards, and it would have been fine. They've done that before. It's because of the patch, and the game is physically... Like, the client, technically, is in a worse place than it's been in a while. The polish was really nice, the fit and finish is really nice, but some things just don't work right now.
Yeah, the oh my yog bug especially, where just your thing is countered and then you've got this animation looping forever. It's better when you have the sound off, but even so.
Yeah, I saw so many people that just have to turn the sound off when that happens because it's so distracting. From
Yeah, I
being
just
able to
mute the
play your
client.
game.
Yeah, and the way it works is that if Oh My Yog counters a spell with a precast animation, the animation never finishes. So they know about it. They said they're going to fix it. But right now, I hate the litany of beta testing, and there's no real way for them to figure out all the stuff at the scale that the client is used at. There are 23 million active players and like under 100, I think like 100 people on the team. They can't figure it out without some kind of exposure. But also, I think it's reasonable to say this current patch has a lot of bugs that are significant. And again, 8 hours after launch, you couldn't play the game unless you read Twitter. So I don't know. There's no great answer here.
But as we were saying before, I took us on this tangent. We do want to give some guesses as to what we think the good nerfs would be. So I think both of you probably have a better idea than I do. I'm interested to hear your ideas on what we think is going to get nerfed, why it's going to get nerfed, and what it's going to get nerfed to. So let's start with you, Edelweiss. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so we already have on the table Sword, Penflinger, Jandis. I actually think I'm not sure if J-Bar will happen. We'll see. I forget. Did they say Rogue?
They said Paladin, Mage, Rogue, Neutral.
Oh, okay. So it may be J-Bar. J-Bar may be. Yeah.
I mean, I think Field Contact is... That card seems slightly more egregious than J-Bar,
Yeah.
but...
It feels more egregious, but statistically it is not. It is splashy and seems good, and I love playing that card. Yeah.
Part of the problem there, though. And interestingly, so the change I have in mind for Penflinger does not affect Rogue as much as Paladin, I think. But I would just love to see Penflinger only be able to hit minions, because it feels so bad when it's killing you, and like you have to play around burst damage from stuff that isn't burst damage. Just Librams, right? You got, I mean, it's not even burst. It's 1,000 cuts and feels miserable, and there's just no way out of it. If the Paladin needs to actually stick a board, and if you can kind of cap Rogue's burst to the actual burst spells or weapons, like that feels way better than just every single spell is 1 to 2 points of extra damage because of Penflinger. I think that is more interesting. It plays into their whole, fight for the board thing as well.
Yeah. I've played a bunch of Rogue, and Rogue feels very good at getting all of its cards, and none of the cards are individually relevant, except for the few threat generators you have, like Kazakus and Jandis. And also, Casey's recent innovation of adding Alec is also very good because that's a burn spell. It's a very large red burn spell.
But
Yeah, I like-
Penflinger makes the whole thing go, and going to 2 mana I think would be too strong. So that's why I like hitting minions. Sorry, go ahead, Bot.
No, I like that as well. I think 2 mana makes it mostly unplayable, and also the having it only deal damage to minions also makes all of the minion damage cards worse in the decks that already play Penflinger, just because if you're already doing all this Penflinger damage only to minions, then also
Yeah, like a Brain Freeze
The-
gets redundant.
right. And the 2/1. I don't
Prize
well,
Plunderer.
Yeah. And I love that card. I play that card so much.
It's
But,
great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if they want to kill the card or if they want to. I actually don't know how much you play it, just because I feel like the majority of the reason that it's in decks is for the face damage anyway. So even if you nerfed it to only minions, you might not even use it anymore. Even though the value is obviously still strong, but you don't just get to always use it every turn for full value. So
I mean, it can still push face that way because you can use it to remove board, and that's a powerful thing. But you don't get to just ignore the board.
Your flexible neutral minion removal option does not suddenly turn into an unbounded source of face damage to end the game. Like, it's Penflinger shouldn't be really good on turn 4 and also game ending on turn 10. It's and uninteractive in the process. It's too good at both things. I like the minion only damage. You could also make it a 2 mana 2/2 and leave the damage at 1. As long as it happens less frequently per game, fine, whatever. I do think that nerfing it to minion damage only probably removes it from most decks. Paladin might still play it, but they probably just go back to Broom and Libram of Judgment. I don't know if there is a way for Penflinger to stay in the format, but also I don't care. We've had our fun with it. It's been a novelty we've explored. If you remove the face damage, you don't have to sit there every single turn doing math to make sure you don't miss the 1 point of damage, and that's the part that I want to go away. If you're just looking for incremental face damage with a card and you're roping because of it 4 turns in a row, get that card out of the game. That needs to not be a thing.
and I hope you're right about Jandis, because I would much rather them nerf Jandis than Field Contact. Even if Field Contact is broken, it's a card I enjoy playing a lot more than Jandis, whereas Jandis just feels like you're playing it as a pile of stats, as someone might say,
And
because that
yeah,
seems kind of be what it is.
stats are crazy now too. Yeah, all the random pools are so strong. I don't know.
And that one I feel like could go to 6, and that would be reasonable, right?
It would be reasonable, but also it would fall out of more lists than you might think. Like, Aggro Rogue for sure would not run it. Miracle Rogue would think about it.
Yeah. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
People talk about, it could have it summon 4 drops or something.
No.
But I think the straightforward thing is to just set it to 6, make it solidly mid-range, right? 6 mana is the cost of mid-range because you can't play 2 in a turn.
Yeah. And if you have it summon 4 drops, you will lose to Kane when you are facing a Jandis, and you don't want that to happen. You will summon the new 4 mana 5/7 Death Rattle. You will summon 4 mana 5/10 Taunt. No. This is also why
Don't worry. There's a 4 mana 5/6 that can only attack if your hero attacked this turn. Oh wait, you're playing Rogue.
Yeah.
So you still get to attack every turn.
Yeah, no.
Oh man.
The thing
4
about
drops are nuts.
when you change the text of a card, you are gambling because we don't know how these cards work conceptually. So just saying 4 drops must be worse than 5 drops there are some hits there that make that not a thing. You're rolling the dice. Same thing with Deck of Lunacy. If you make it increase by 2 instead of increase by 3, I have no idea what that looks like. It's different. I don't know if it's worse, and we need the card to get worse. Changing the mana cost is deterministic. You know that the card gets more expensive. You know that mana cost is the most important factor in a card seeing play. So if you move it, and you know it's going to get worse. If you change how the card functions, you don't really know what's going to happen. And that's enough of a risk to say if you need the meta to change, you just change the cost or take something away objectively as opposed to taking a chance. And I do not want a rogue killing me with Kane. I do not want that happening.
That leads me to the next bit, which is, 3 mana or 4 mana Lunacy.
I said this already, but I really think that they should make it increase by 2.
I was just
Talk about that.
I was talking about that immediately previous to this. You're rolling the dice.
What do you mean?
So if you change the way the card functions, you don't know where you're going to hit. And I don't know if there's some broken thing that we could hit by increasing by 2. I just want the card to get guaranteed worse.
Well, I mean, I think you can increase it by 2 and have it cost 3 or 4.
Oh, so like you just want to completely obliterate the card.
Yeah, I don't think it's a card that we want people playing. But
I think you could do that by putting it to 4.
I think increasing it by 2 is a bigger nerf than increasing the cost of the card, though.
I don't know about random fools. Like I don't know.
That's a lot of Libram of Hopes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd much rather them have like you can easily manage Libram of Hope in a lot of decks. Like Grand Slam is way hard, and it would require you to put Deep Freeze in your deck to be able to still hit Grand Slam, which is a terrible card in that deck.
You just play Cthulhu pieces so you can get more masks. Like you just turn all your Cthulhu pieces into masks, and then you Pyroblast people.
Let's see. What are the 7 drops?
There's
7 drops are
Barrage of Expendables, Mask of
Expendable Performers,
Celestial Alignment.
So like Celestial Alignments mostly a miss. Flame Strike's kind of whatever. Commencement is a big miss. Okay, so it's not actually that many misses.
Yep. It's a lot of Cycles of Hatred, which is a very good card at 4 mana or 5 mana. A lot of Soul Mirrors. I feel like it is mostly board clears and an occasional Pyroblast, and Commencement's the only miss, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you increase it, I don't know. I think you just need to get the card out of here, and I don't know that having it do the same thing and go to 4 is necessarily where you want to be.
That's why I wanted to go to 5.
Go up by 3.
I wanted to go to 5.
Yeah, I think it should have the same kind of cost that Deck of Chaos has, which is like you are dedicating a middle of the game turn to this.
Yep.
And that low tempo is like interesting if you want to opt into a crazy powerful thing, but you're not gonna just like get it off on 2 and go nuts.
Hell, make it cost 6. Make it cost the same as Deck of Chaos.
Yeah.
And just have it be like, oh, this is how much it should have cost. Deck of Chaos, Deck of Lunacy, same cost.
Put them both at 5. I honestly think Deck of Chaos was designed to be inconvenient because Malygos existed. Now Malygos doesn't exist anymore, so you can probably do something about that.
Right.
But like, yeah, Deck of Lunacy to 5. I'm just increase Deck of Lunacy by 3 mana and see how it likes it. See how it likes it. That's what it's been doing to people. It's been taking 3 mana away. Give it back. Deck of Lunacy, you just got Lunacy. Go up by 3. I'm saying it.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think there's a world where that stays in decks and people feel okay about Mage.
Yeah. I'm ready for random effects to get, like, random effects need to have a bigger cost now. Iksar has said as much during his AMA. A Pexus Blast still feels pretty insane. Like,
oh my god.
You just get
it's the same pool as J-Bar, right?
Yeah. So, like, there's Blood Herald, and then there are Slam Dunks. Those are the 2 options. You get Slam Dunks or you get a 1/1. And the 1/1 happens 1 time. Yeah, let's just delete the card. What else? Sword of the Fallen. We're all on the same page, sort of. The phone card's way too good.
1/2.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
It
probably a
might
1/2.
not be enough, but I think that, one fewer card draw, one fewer swing, I think that is one
Honestly,
where it could still be playable, still be strong, but just be worse.
I think they probably need to hit 2 cards in Paladin, would
Yeah.
be
Oh,
my
absolutely.
guess.
There's so
So
many good cards in Paladin.
I wonder if the second one needs to be a secret. Maybe not.
The secrets only
Like,
feel
so many
oppressive
of the
because you
secrets
get.
feel powerful.
But if that's only because you're seeing 3 of them by turn 5, especially if 2 of those are Oh My Yogg by turn 5, it's devastating. But if you reduce the durability, you kind of address that problem. But
To some extent,
yeah.
feel like one of the other Paladin nerfs is Penflinger.
Yeah. Yeah, it is definitely a nerf to Paladin, but I don't think Secret Paladin even plays that card, right?
No, that is true. I see a lot more of the Libram one than Secrets.
And here is where I think, after Sword, Flinger, and Jandis, and Deck of Lunacy, after those 4, this is where it gets murky. Because I don't think there's consensus on what those last ones. So do we think that both 2-post and 3-post are the last 2 cards? Or do you think it's something else?
I don't know. I haven't seen enough
I mean, if
posts.
if
in the past
Penflinger is
couple
one of the
days.
neutrals, then I can't imagine posts are. I can't imagine both posts are getting hit, right? Like either Penflinger's not getting hit and it's 2 posts. Those are the neutrals. Or I think only one of the posts is getting hit. I don't know. Because to the posts, I feel like we all would like to see them decrease by 1 HP.
What do you think, Bot?
Honestly, I'm looking at the Paladin list right now, and I know you both won't agree with me because this card has a very low win rate, but I really think Avenge should be +2/+2. That extra power that it gives is like, it just puts on so much pressure. Or +3/+1, something less on Avenge, since that card was kind of just one of the staples of Secret Paladin. It just feels really, really powerful. Feels like it puts on too much pressure. I don't know. There's something. Maybe Northwatch Commander is.
You're looking at the stats, right?
Mulligan win, right?
But
Yeah,
look
I'm
at the
looking
keep rate.
stats.
Look at the keep rate of Northwatch Commando. It's only like 40-something% because people keep it when they have Sword and they win because they have Sword on 2. So it correlates very closely.
It says like 60%.
And the
on
keep
here,
rate.
but
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as far as posts go, 3-post is the one that's seeing less play and I think is the more oppressive one. Because if you could go like Flame Imp into 1-drop coin wriggling horror or whatever, and you just kill it, then you're fine. But you can't play minion decks because 3-post exists. So I think 3-post is the real limiting factor in the format, which allowed Spell Mage to flourish. So I think that card needs to be worse. I think 3/4 is fine, or have it summon 1/1s. I think that could also be an interesting avenue because the 2/2s are pretty significant. It needs to get worse. So it either needs to be easier to kill or worse at what it does. So I think 3/4 or make 1/1s are both fine. But I agree with Bodicus in the last card needing to be a Paladin card, and I saw this from Enthrallment chat, and you know what? I agree. First day of school to 1 mana. Because the 1-drop pool is crazy, and they have enough good 1-drops, and so I would like for that first card to cost something, and then it's 3 mana for 2 1-drops, so you pay for the card draw instead of it just being free. I think you can just move that card to 1 mana. Paladin's in a good enough spot that it can survive that now. It doesn't need that to win.
And how many times do they play first day of school, any 1-drop, and you're just like, well, I hope they don't have Hand of Adal because then I never get back on board.
Or I hope they don't hit Aldor Tenant or Penflinger, which they usually do. Yeah, I think first day to 1 mana, it's time for Paladin to pay some mana for that spell. And that was really, really good since it's been printed. But it's okay for that card to cost 1 because it's a card draw spell. And it generates random stuff. And Dean has talked about the power of random generation needs to have more of a cost to the pool being better. 0 is not a cost. It's nothing. It says nothing. So I think that's a way to slow down any aggressive Paladin deck. I could also see Conviction moving to 2 mana or something, because that card is goofy. That card's really, really strong, but...
Yeah, that hits the secret deck more than the Libram deck.
Yeah.
Where I'd rather see something that's in both, but yeah, Conviction's quite strong.
But it's okay for there to be good cards, and like this is why I'm not bringing up Refreshing Springwater. I want Spellmage to be good, and I know that playing against Refreshing Springwater can feel crazy, but like it's a cutting class with upside in a class that last year was just about generating random crap that didn't cost any mana. Now we're just drawing cards. Fine. Let Mage draw cards. If it stays too good, whatever. But I would rather Mage stay playable and not have to resort once again to random generation. And it's possible there's a world in the future where it only refreshes 1 crystal or where it costs 5 or whatever. But I think that you're right that hitting both Paladin decks is more important. First Day of School seems to be the best way to do that, I think. And that card costing 1 mana, I think you would still really consider playing it. I think it'd still be pretty good at 1 mana.
Yeah, I like that change a lot. And also I saw someone's point about refreshing Springwater. I think it might have been Meaty who said something like something as restrictive as refreshing Springwater is to make work, I think is a good space to be in. So I really like how when you play refreshing Springwater, it feels really good. And whenever you play against somebody who's playing refreshing Springwater and has minions in their deck, it really feels like they're taking a chance playing that card. So I like that push and pull of like, if you really go all in to build around it, then it can be a really powerful card, but it has the downside of you had to build your deck. And obviously we've gotten into stuff like that before where that's maybe not necessarily the best mode when you talk about like the singleton decks and how you used to think that was a downside. But I really do feel like once Lunacy gets nerfed, like we all assume that it's going to be, then it's going to be a somewhat considerable downside to play an all-spell deck, and therefore Refreshing Springwater is okay to be a really powerful card, I think.
You want every deck to have something good to do. And I would rather Mage be good at drawing cards than making cards. Because when it was really good at Mana Cyclone into a bunch of crap and then Mana Giant and then Conjurer's Calling it, I'm going to go ahead and say that's more tilting to losing to a cutting class. I'm going to say that. They can draw a couple cards. It's fine. Other thoughts?
No. I think we can move on to other news.
That was the first bullet point in news. By the way, there is no explanations this week. That was basically it, because we don't really want to spend time digging into decks that are going to change 2 days after you hear this. We're going to focus on what's going on right now, and there's more stuff to talk about. Like this pre-announced server-side patch, which I think is the first time we've ever seen pre-announced server-side patches.
Yeah, so, well, this was the patch that came out on the 5th, right?
On Monday, correct.
About. So, yeah, they announced that they were releasing patch 20.0.1 on the 5th, and there were a bunch of bug fixes for game improvements in constructed modes. And not going to list all of them individually, but mainly just that Penflinger got removed from buckets and duels. Let's see, just a bunch of bugs in here. What do you think is the most? Would you say is the most impactful of these?
Okay, so there are a few of these.
The Far Watch Post triggering off Secret Passage.
That's a big one. Yep,
that's a big one.
And like the duels changes are significant. Where Penflinger was a nightmare and cannibalism as a passive treasure was also a nightmare. They got rid of the Shaman Totem bugs, fixed those, Spark Trade Cheat, Grave Rune. But I think the most important one is actually a functional change to Olgra Mancrick's wife, who now costs 3, which means that in Hunter, you can play Barack Code Obama, and you can go get the wife who we shall call Michelle, by the way, because she is Barack's wife. So, there have been multiple times where I Mancrick and then Barack into Arcane Shot, Quick Shot, Olgra. And that's 8 damage draw a card, assuming that my Quick Shot doesn't also draw me a card, which it does sometimes. By the way, that card's great. So, it's turn 5, you draw 3 cards, and you get a 3/10 that has charge. Like, it's pretty good.
I'd like to have other 3 costs in the deck, but in Face Hunter, it doesn't really make sense because your 3 drops are Deadly Shot or you're running Secrets for Petting Zoo.
Yeah. I would rather have a good 3-mana spell that I want to draw, yes. So if they want to put Kill Command back, then they can. But they don't have that in the set, so it's I will go get Olgra. And then Mancrick mad, but he helps me out. I don't know. So yeah, it's there are a bunch of quality of life changes here and a bunch of weird things. This is alright, so this is the weirdest one. Fixed a bug where Scorch was dealing 1 less damage than intended. Scorch is a 4-mana spell from, I think it's from Rise of Shadows. I forget exactly when. It was a 4-mana mage spell that says deal 4 damage to a minion. If you played an elemental last turn, this cost 1. How did that card lose a damage? Where did it go?
No idea.
Like, what were they messing with that had a damage reduction effect? Does it have a spell school now? I guess it's a fire spell? It's from Rosticon's Rumble. It is a fire spell now. Costs 1 less if you played an
These
element.
are the kinds of things that it's just like, who even knows how these things happen?
Like, where were they in the data that it was anywhere near this card? They had to change it to fire, I guess. They had to change it to a fire spell, so they accidentally type a 3 instead of... I don't know. But I was amused. I was amused by that. Oh, also, were the new 2-mana 3/2 Murloc, if you control a Murloc, deal 2, it counted your opponent's Murlocs too. That was kind of funny. That if they had a Murloc, you're like, thanks, bro, getcha. Yeah. I don't know. I'm glad they fixed some stuff. It's the first time that I saw them have to announce bug fixes in advance, which means that also they felt scared of pushing this live because they didn't want to break anything.
Well, it was already broken, so.
Yeah. Well, but like, it was broken and that stuff didn't work as opposed to the broken that it was before where you couldn't queue. So.
So, also, next on the list of news, we have a list of all of the mercenaries that we kind of got the announcement that there's going to be 10 new mercenaries. That's going to be the focus of a lot of the next little portion of Hearthstone here. And we have the list of all of them. These are also each one of these will be featured in a separate book of heroes to come out soon. And yeah, basically all of these are appear in the new set. Which is pretty cool. I don't know, do we want to go through all of them individually, or just we have a link in the show notes if you want to check it out?
You could name them at least.
I got the name. It's
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I got you. And the Book of Mercenaries in general, the content, did either of you play this yet?
No, not yet.
I've been stacking mine up.
Well, no. This is Book of Mercenaries, not Book of Heroes. These are characters original to Hearthstone with... they hired Matt London as a narrative designer, and he worked really hard in this stuff along with Dylan Walker. It feels like characters that were written for Hearthstone being aware of the context they were in, as opposed to trying to explain all of Warcraft 3 in 5 missions or whatever, in the Book of Hero stuff. It feels a lot more natural. The writing is good. The narrative is cohesive. The characters are well developed, and the mechanics are a little bit better. The difficulty is turned down a little bit. It's not as frustrating. I think they did a really good job with it. I don't normally like this kind of content. I have played like 2 of Book of Heroes. The Book of Mercenaries was very well done and very enjoyable. So as far as free content goes for solo stuff, I think it's really great. And if you are not having a great time with Standard right now, go check out Rokara. I think that you will have more fun with that than you might realize. And you get to, like, there's a really cool buddy mechanic with choosing a hero power for your buddy. Like, I enjoyed it. It's fun. So, there's Cariel Roam for Paladin. There's Scabs Cutter Butter, the best name, of course, for Rogue. There's Tavish Stormpike for Hunter. There's Kurtrus Ashfallen, you can call him Kurt Russell, for Demon Hunter. Zyrella for Priest. Rokara for Warrior. Tamsin Rome for Warlock. Yes, that is her sister, of Cariel's sisters. Varden Dongrasp for Mage. Guff Rune Totem, total himbo, by the way, for Druid. Love the art here where he's just chilling with a Snapjaw and a croc. And Brukan for Shaman. So there is this is it's a well done thing, and I'm glad they did it, and it actually feels like something that I want to engage with that's well made, as opposed to Book of Heroes, which to me felt kind of like an afterthought. It wasn't really targeted at our demographic, but I think that Mercenaries, Book of Mercenaries, is much closer to universally appealing content. Also of note, the Mercenaries game mode and Book of Mercenaries are not the same thing. They're different. So the Mercenaries game mode is coming later this expansion cycle. This is not that. So if you play this and you say, wow, this new game mode is really familiar, this is not the new game mode. It's just content.
And
Yeah.
so I know we've got skins for some of these. Like we've seen Rokara is in the rewards track right now. and, Zyrella as well. Are we expecting to get, all of these as skins down the line? We've got Cortrus in the rewards track right now as well.
I could see it, but we're not. There's no expectation that's set by Blizzard right now. I don't think it'd be
Mhm.
unreasonable to think they'll do like 3-4-3 or whatever. But also, we don't know what the theme of the next set's going to be. It's possible. They do seem to have a lot of energy placed into the mercenaries as characters because they're making a new game mode about them, and they're prominent cards and constructed, and they get their own books. I don't think it's an unreasonable guess, but we don't know for sure yet.
Because I would really love to get Cariel Rome as a skin.
Yeah.
I've been using Liadrin for a while now, and yeah, it'd just be cool to have another one to use.
Yeah, I want Togwaggle as a
Cariel
skin.
has some.
I want Togwaggle.
Cariel has some sick art.
Yeah.
Yep.
She's got a big hammer. Yeah.
So yeah, make sure. I think I'll definitely, after Hat's recommendation, I'll check this out because it seems pretty cool. Lastly, for the news, we of course every week, despite him saying eventually he might switch to bi-weekly, Iksar did another AMA, and some of the main takeaways we got from that, apparently he's talking not only about potentially or about the current nerfs that are planned, but also potentially some future nerfs. I know I've seen a lot of talk about Ticketus being kind of an outlier, and the fact that they didn't mention Ticketus because it's not a mage, paladin, rogue, or neutral card. People are worried that Ticketus is going to end up taking over the meta, which I don't know that is true, but people are worried about a card of that kind of power level being they don't want that being the best thing you can do in the meta, so kind of understandable.
Ticketus is subjective as well. This card disproportionately performs well at lower MMR brackets and is a viscerally negative experience for players that are less knowledgeable about the game usually, because it's countered the same way that Questroke was countered, by playing really hard for tempo and going face. But for the players that don't have the skills that are quite as developed or want to play slower strategies and aren't good at switching gears and saying I have to pressure and win, it's pretty negative. And if you look back at Dean's AMAs, every week he has multiple Ticketus questions and answers one. And at a certain point, when enough people are saying this part of your game isn't fun, it would be foolish to not change it. So I wouldn't be surprised if they change him to mill from both players' decks or reduce the number of cards or both or something. Don't expect any change to it that makes sense competitively, because the card isn't competitively viable. But it's a user experience change for people that play at different rank brackets as opposed to the people that are pushing high, pushing legend.
Yeah, and one of the quotes from Iksar is that The goal is to adjust power outliers in minor ways rather than to clip decks completely out of the meta. We're a live service game that makes adjustments and content on a regular basis. We want players to see and know that this is an actively cared for and curated experience. Kind of giving everybody an idea that they're not trying to take away. If your favorite deck is Spell Mage and you love doing that thing, they don't want to necessarily take that away from you, but they want to make sure that everything is in line with a power level that allows people whose that is not their favorite deck to still be able to compete and enjoy the game, is kind of what I've take away from that.
Yeah, it's the experience that we have of the first 4 weeks of an expansion. We're going to get nerfs. We're going to get nerfs. That's normal. We should make peace with that being normal. Talking about nerfs in the first episode of every expansion is something we're going to do now. Like, it's a thing that they're keeping in mind and we're keeping in mind, and they don't always have to do it, but they've been doing it. So
I think something that's kind of bizarre with right now as well is Lunacy is a card that it could be 2 mana in 6 sets and we don't play it. That happened and could totally happen again, but it has to be changed right now. And because we don't do necessarily changes the same way that a game like League of Legends or MOBAs do, you know, once a card gets nerfed, very rarely does it get reverted. We had like the big reversions as things went to wild, but I almost feel like you could have Lunacy back at 2 in 6 set meta and it wouldn't see play. But I wonder if at some point we may be able to go to more of a balanced philosophy of like changes happen regularly and, you know, we can adjust things, you know, we can buff things back once, you know, the problem is out of the way. Kind of like, you know, equality going to 4 and then to 3.
yeah, there could be a world where they're even more fluid than they are now. But I think that they also need to be careful in making sure that people can play their decks and adapt to a meta, because the most fun part, like you said, Elvice, you being like the hitman to kill mage is fun. It's a fun thing to do. And if they just nerf it before you get to do that.
Okay. It's a way to keep the game interesting in times like these. I would still take the balanced meta over hunting the 30% of the meta deck.
Yeah. I mean, me too. And then Dean had this one last really interesting thing. Dog asked him, actually, what were his biggest, let me find this exact quote. Some of your biggest failures when it came to game design in Hearthstone and what you're most proud of. His answer of pride was very humble. That he spends a lot of his time wondering if the people he's supposed to be leading think he's doing okay or if he's just incompetent, but he's proud of the team environment he's made, which is the kind of thing you want to hear from a boss, where they take blame and give credit. That means a good boss. But his answers on design failures, I'm going to read this word for word because I found it really fascinating. Definitely had pure design failures, but most of my biggest failures have been social ones, trying to be the creator when I should have been a better teammate, thinking I needed to be decisive in a moment I should have been a better listener. As for expansions, my first sets as lead were Kobolds, Witchwood, Boomsday, Rastakans. You can pretty clearly see some of that failure. I was new, wanted to push the boundaries of power and synergy, saw the results, pulled back way too hard the following year. Didn't really understand overall expansion power well enough until Rise of Shadows, and I think we've done a lot better job as a team managing power since. Some regrets with not putting enough emphasis on making the game easy to come back to. It can be such a huge sink of your money and time to want to come back, and with such a big focus on feature development, I think we lost a lot of the audience who poked their heads back in. and Corridor Creeper. Yes. So,
Oh, wow.
this is extremely insightful. This is very honest. He's clear about the mistakes he's made in a way that shows true insight and self-reflection. When he lists those expansions, you know, like, that wasn't necessarily a great time for the game, and also that was right when Broad was leaving, right? He was picking up, he was taking over, he learned, he figured it out, and he saw the mistakes he made and pulled it back. Hearing someone that's in charge saying this kind of stuff and laying these failures bare and showing where he's learned, but showing that he still has more to learn and not thinking, no, we're the best at this now. I really love this perspective. I think it's a great perspective.
Yeah, and honestly, like, just coming out and saying those sets with people, you know, knowing exactly, you know, pretty brave.
Yeah. But
It does make me think of design leads and sets. Who's excited for Alec Dawson to lead next set? Alec Dawson middle set. Let's go.
Alec Dawson middle sets are like they're slam dunks, like almost universally. And yeah, it's the first answer being that he should have been a better teammate and a better listener. That's the guy you want to work for. That's the kind of person that you want in charge of things, because that's a really hard admission to make and an even harder skill to learn. But it seems like he's gone out of his way to make the effort, and I think that the game's quality and the general health of the game, regardless of the bugs and nerfs we're talking about, overall has improved because of that kind of approach. So yeah, really, really love this answer, and it makes me think even more highly of him.
Also, Corridor Creeper.
Also, Corridor Creeper. Yeah. Also, I asked him, he didn't respond of, like, how bad was it? But, like, that is always his number one answer. And it was also that was in the first set he lead designed. So, yeah. And Craptasm is saying in chat that having a boss who can talk to you honestly about what they screwed up on is important. I've been that boss. I still am that boss. I am very, very big on telling people where I've made mistakes and making sure that the crew get the credit, the managers get the credit, and I just say, nah, man, I just was around while other people did the work. All right, Edelweiss, that's a great idea, and we're going to do that. Secret for the end of the show. Yeah, all right. Tournaments, which is also, by the way, just news. Y'all ready?
Ready as I'll ever be.
It's the grand tournament.
So, today, Zalae was suspended from Grandmasters for 1 year. We have clarified from the PC Gamer article that just came out that it is a year-long suspension. To read the statement exactly, Hearthstone Esports is aware of allegations made against America's Grandmaster Paul Zalae Nemeth. Upon further review, we have suspended Zalae from competing in all Hearthstone Esports events. This happened today. Today was also the first day of Grandmasters where he was meant to play under 8 hours ago, as of the time of this recording. And there was pressure building on social media over the past week, month, whatever, since the allegations went down late last year. But it reached a fever pitch this week, and they took action. It was at the buzzer, right at the last minute. We're glad they did something, and the timing is poor. It's a complicated, nuanced situation. We don't feel super qualified to dig into this further or analyze. We're just glad they did something. There's been a conversation going on about it in the Concede Discord. I think that's going to be a better place for a long-form discussion here. It's... I'm glad they did something. But, yeah, it's the Grandmasters hype is also not really built up a lot. They have made a push in the past week, but every bit of hype around this in the past week, the replies have been very clear that people were concerned there wasn't action taken against Zalae. So today's games weren't broadcasted. America's region now has 15 players instead of 16, so one player gets a bye every week, and no one can get 2 byes. They are not adding in a 16th Grandmaster this season. They're just going to leave it blank. So it's a round robin bye.
Super, super weird, right? Because does that mean after the year is potentially re-entered? Like they just said suspended.
We don't have information on that, and I doubt they know what they're going to do. I seriously doubt they have any idea of what they're going to do, considering they just made this announcement today, like 2 hours before he was supposed to play.
Right. I mean, this was definitely okay, I guess there's enough outcry. This is enough bad press that we have to do something. I thought it was just going to be an investigation. I mean, you'll remember that Purple's situation slid right off their back because it happened around the same time that he lost out of GMs anyway.
Yeah, he got relegated.
They got to do the year suspension, and it was, kind of a formality because he got relegated anyway, so who cares?
Yeah. Either way, glad they did something. Sorry that this thing keeps happening. But they did something, so we'll take it. And if you want to talk more about this, definitely check out discord.concede.com. We've got a pretty active conversation going in the main channel, and I imagine there will be more conversation as, this topic does not tend to be something that just dies out.
Yeah. Yep. I think for all of us, it felt weird to see some of the people that were fighting on on this account.
Yeah, Insom and Zeddy were both very clear agents of change here, and I think their social media presence tends to be hit or miss. We're not here to judge specific people, but generally they've both been on the more incendiary side, and in this case, they were definitely working as agents of good. So I'm glad that there was some momentum behind this. But anyways, so GM Week 1 also has started. We have some initial stats. There's a tweet in the show notes here from James HS, where this is a format where what is your fourth deck? Because you're bringing Paladin, you're bringing Mage, you're bringing Rogue. What is your fourth deck? So Yogg Priest and Aggro Hunter did well. There were a lot of middling decks, like Aggro Demon Hunter and regular Control Priest. Miracle Priest and Cthulhu Priest did not do well. Token Druid was awful. 14 and 24. Really, really bad. So you don't want to be playing Token Druid there. I guess that was in the ban Paladin target Mage strategy, but sometimes the Mage gets Deck of Lunacy into Cycle of Hatred, and then your Token Druid deck ceases to function. On day one, in terms of bans from GM, the Mage was the most common ban at 37, Paladin right behind at 31, Rogue at 16, 3 Priest bans, 1 Hunter ban, 1 Warlock ban, 1 Druid ban. Very strange. Oh, why did that move? Here we go. In addition, this is going to be on YouTube. There are YouTube drops, which is kind of a new thing. And the most important change to Hearthstone Esports, I think, since Grandmasters has started, it is not just going to be in the Hearthstone Esports channel. This will be on the normal Hearthstone channel simultaneously broadcast. So if you are subscribed to the normal Hearthstone channel, you'll be able to see it. The VODs won't be on that channel. They will only be on the Hearthstone Esports channel. But if you subscribe to the Hearthstone channel, and you go to YouTube this weekend, it will pop up as live at the top of your feed. This is a big deal. The visibility of where is the stream is a huge deal. A lot of people subscribe to the Hearthstone channel on YouTube, and just knowing that something is happening when you open YouTube over the weekend at the top of your feed, I think will be pretty important. Also, if there was ever a weekend to close chat as soon as you start watching, this is that weekend, because it's going to be a mess, and mods in that chat, you have my support, and thanks for your job. Because yikes.
Honestly,
I mean,
it might be yikes the whole time.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever seen a competitive channel that's not just a streamer that it wasn't just completely yikes. The whole chat all the time is just pretty bad.
Yeah.
At least when you have like a host, like one person that you're watching competing, it feels like that can be kind of curated, but anytime it's like a major competitive outlet showing a broadcasted game, it always just feels really bad.
Maybe it's better in games with different audiences. Like maybe the Splatoon chat is really wholesome or something. Like I don't know. I know that any Riot game, no. Most competitive games, no. But I wonder if there are some channels out there that are mythical good Twitch chat or Twitch chat equivalent. But I don't think it's going to be the Play Hearthstone channel this weekend. So up to you if you want to leave chat open. I am going to not leave it open. We also,
I mean, how often is the quote unquote chat of like a professional sports organization, like when you go to a football game, the chatters are like the audience in the crowd yelling random stuff? How often is that like actually beneficial content being added to whatever's happening? It's not much better.
I like minor league baseball games. Minor league's the best because it's like $20 tickets and you get all, and like the hot dogs and the beers aren't too expensive, and then and no one's like rooting for people to get injured at a minor league game, like just whatever's hanging out. But yeah,
People root for someone to get injured in baseball.
People are bad. People are bad at being people when competitive urges take over. Anyways. Qualifier data is also in if you're over on off-curve, which you should be, offcurve.com/masterstore, run by our good friend Wicked. The best deck is Paladin. In case you were wondering, buy a lot. Mage is in second, Rogue's also good. Token Druid's actually alright in qualifiers. Now, I didn't get a picture of this list first. There's a player named Jacobo X that is my favorite person because they won a qualifier with Self-Mill Warlock. They won a qualifier with Burn Your Own Cards Warlock. And I took their list in the ladder, and you know what? It's kind of okay. It's kind of alright.
It very much wants to ban Mage, though.
Yes. Yeah. This is an anti-Paladin lineup for sure. Let me get this deck list up on the screen because people have to see this gorgeous thing. But yeah, I don't know if I take this deck on ladder because the Paladin matchup is going to be, well, actually no, this is the Mage matchup is going to be sketchy. But the Paladin matchup is actually like kind of okay. And the lineup also had Priest and Mage, and we won a qualifier. Now, this is an outlier, and Mill Warlock is still not the deck to play on ladder. Probably shouldn't, but if you want to, you can. But Secret Libram Paladin, best deck by a lot. What's the win rate here? Something stupid. I remember the bar being crazy. The global win rate on Secret Libram Paladin is 57%. Seems okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So, also, Fish Syndicate ladder data is out. It's unbalanced. So, put some win rate data up here. Libram Paladin, global 57% win rate. We talked about it. So, we're actually going to wind down the show a little early here, just because there's no explanations to speak of here. Because by the time you listen to this meta will be a memory, or soon to become one. And the change will be so significant, we're not going to talk about how to beat Spell Mage or how to beat Paladin. Right now, the best thing you can do, find your fun. And that's either playing this game the way that you want to, which may mean playing the best decks, which may mean playing decks that are a little bit off meta and eating a bad matchup, or which may mean closing the client or playing a different mode until you are ready for the nerfs, because this meta tilts you. Find your fun. The nerfs are going to go live 2 weeks after the set releases. I think that's a pretty reasonable time frame. And in the meantime, figure out what you want to do that you enjoy, but it may be duels, it may be Book of Mercenaries, it may be Wild, it may be Classic, it may be Battlegrounds, or it may be going to play a different game for a little while. Find your fun. We'll be back next week. We'll talk to you. We're excited for the next new meta. But for now, we're going to say thanks. So, we have many folks who'd like to thank. Check out our thanks section on the website at CoinConcede.com. You can also find our contact info, show notes, and our Patreon information. You can support our show at patreon.com/CoinConcede. Join us every week live by following us on Twitch, twitch.coinconcede.com. Join our community chats in our Discord at discord.coinconcede.com. Write into our email, coinconcede@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at CoinConcede. Like, share, and follow us on Facebook, facebook.com/CoinConcede. Like some CC swag, head over to our shop, shop.coinconcede.com. Big thanks to our producers, Number 3 Tenor, Wizard, Dosti, Cape, Ropey 1, Dr. Fish, Kresh, Cap, B-Squad, David P, Snowback, and Taro, and Lucky. That's such a long list. People are crazy. Makefield, don't you worry. We'll say that at the very end. All right, and thank you as well. The Twitch subs, Razix, Grumpy Face, and Kresh, and Wicked Good, thank you so much for the big ol' host. Also, I'm doing my Coin Concede first. Edelweiss finally revealed why she has fancy gear because she won Patra's Gen G Play Like a Girl contest. Edelweiss, tell us about that, because you've been trying to dodge this for the entire show.
I have been trying to keep it on the down low for a month because I've known this and I've had the equipment for almost a month now, and I had told Hat because I needed Hat to pick out the technology because I don't know what's good. So when I was even when I was applying for the contest, I was like, Hat, what do I ask for? I have no idea. And in retrospect, I maybe should have included some, not crappy headphones or something. But I mostly went for stuff that'll enhance the experience of viewers rather than things that will just enhance my experience. Seemed only fitting. And yeah, I won. I thought that Patra had something to do with picking it, but it was just the Gen G US Bank people. So really kind of empowering, big confidence boost, and obviously super grateful to get all the upgrades to my setup. Feel like a real content creator with proper lighting and audio equipment. So now I've got to do a lot of leveling up in terms of my education. I need to learn some video editing and settings on all this stuff. Maybe actually learn how to put on makeup. But
I can't help you with that one. I can help with the tech. The settings futzing I can help with. The makeup part, you're on your own.
So
yeah,
my coin concedes are to US Bank, Gen G, and Patra because it's such an amazing opportunity, and I would not have been able to get all this stuff for myself. So,
and you did this cool little episode and mini show with Patra over on her Instagram. So we linked that in the Twitch chat in the show notes. Definitely go check it out over on twitter.com/Patra. It's really cool. It was really cool to see. Well deserved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bodicus, you got any coin concedes?
I will coin concede to my mom, who was able to get me that vaccination appointment through her work. So, because otherwise I would have waited a really long time because I procrastinate stuff like that. So, yeah, that's what we'll go with this week.
That's a good one.
That reminds me, coin concede to my 92-year-old grandmother who is still living alone with her dog and doing all her cooking and going for a walk every day. I'm very impressed and hope that I am so healthy when I am that age. But I was very pleased to get to visit her for some time, and we watched all of Bridgerton together, which was an interesting thing to do with the person who raised me.
That sounds like a fascinating social experiment. Yeah. I'm also going to coin concede to a few other people, Antero and Nomad Farmer. So a really enjoyable thing happened in the Coin Concede Discord, I think it was last week or the week before, where Antero said, I want to learn the League of Explorers theme on accordion. Does anyone here play accordion? And Nomad Farmer was like, yeah. And we've created a space where you can just, where that happens. Where it's like, hey, does anyone play accordion? Oh yeah, I do. It's just, I didn't anticipate being in charge of a gaming environment where that's a thing that occurs, but it happened. And then Entera recorded himself playing the League of Explorers theme on accordion. And it's awesome. And it's fantastic. So, yeah. Props. And then also, one final coin concede to Craptasm. Craptasm is a fan of the Vicious Syndicate podcast. And over in the Vicious Syndicate podcast, my co-host Zacho has a lot of feelings about the card Light Shower Elemental. And Light Shower Elemental has a very particular color. And can also be called Golden Shower Elemental, which means a different thing. And Craptasm, you're going to hear this on the Vicious Syndicate podcast this week, but he made a very special musical accompaniment that's going to be live on that show. So definitely check it out because it made me laugh harder than anything else has this week. So, yeah. Coin concede to you. I'm sorry, we're currently coordinating our sign-off right now. Edelweiss is just you, I think.
Okay.
Okay.
So I'll go last.
Yes, as usual. So, keep calm and mulligan for Deck of Lunacy. And if you see us on ladder, coin concede.
Coin concede.
Coin concede. And also Corridor Creeper.
Wah, wah. It's not even coming through. Alright, I'll add that in post. Yes, thank you so much everyone for tuning in. And Corridor Creeper, which is also the name of the title of the episode. And Corridor Creeper. Yeah, thank you all for tuning in. Shorter episode this week because we're not going to refine decks in a meta that is so clearly troubled and going away. So, thank you all. See y'all later. Bye.